So I was thinking about how I should explain how I got into yoga, because it has been quite a journey, and I think, like a lot of people, you end up finding yoga when you're not well, when you're searching for a way to heal yourself or move through a situation. So my story is that was more than 10 years ago now. It started with Candida, and the Candida went all through my body, and I tried to kill it first with garlic, which worked for a moment, but it actually made me sicker because I experienced this really incredible die-off. So anybody who knows Candida or who's had serious Candida will know what I'm talking about. What happens is that you use antifungals and diet to kill the Candida, this fungus that's in your system, and when it dies, it actually kind of ferments, and you actually smell like alcohol, and you feel really sick, chronically fatigued, like really bad brain fog, very emotional, constantly tired, just not yourself. So I went from being this really energetic, productive person to being somebody who was sleeping 16 hours a day and just struggling to do things, overreacting about things because I was like kind of really emotional and just foggy in the head. I couldn't think straight. So it was a really horrible time, and this went on for about 18 months. And I wrote a blog about my journey, like how I did heal myself. It started with me just researching and cross-referencing everything that I could find on the internet, recognizing that a lot of regular GPs were not helpful at all. In fact, discounted the fact that Candida dysbiosis in the gut even exists. That was one experience. So after doing a lot of diet, so I got to the point where, so Candida feeds on sugar. So you can't drink, I couldn't drink alcohol, I couldn't eat anything delicious. I cut out gluten, you name it. And the sad thing is I was overseas travelling at the time, and I'm in Italy, and I can't eat gluten or eat gelato or do any of that fun stuff. I was just searching for like really natural foods. And I came back to Australia, I still had it, and I remember I went on this fast of nothing. I cut out all sugar, like I even cut out sweet potato and carrots, anything that had sugar content. So any fruit, was just eating really, really basic. And I got worse. It got so that every time I ate something, my body would get tingly all over. And I have this theory that the Candida went searching for sugar in my blood and burrowed holes somehow through my gut, and I ended up with leaky gut syndrome. I'm just going to let you know, this is all self-diagnosed. I didn't go to the doctor, but I did get well. So to heal the leaky gut, and I remember I was at this point, I was bawling my eyes out, just going, okay, I'm going to have to accept that I will never have a glass of wine again. I will never eat bread again. My whole life is going to be different. And I went on a bone broth fast. So I read about bone broth. I made my own bone broth, and I just did it with like shin bones of a cow, I think. And it was quite gross at first because the first lot's like really fatty. And I made myself have this really fatty collagen-filled broth. And I had nothing else but that for 3 days. And I think on the third day I added some spinach leaves. That was the first thing I ate. But that did successfully heal my gut. The Candida and the rest and the chronic fatigue, I started to work on emotions. So I remember lying in bed one day and just going, okay, I'm just going to like feel my body and just see where there's some kind of energy or something sitting, and just be aware and then hone into that area. So I honed into this area, I think it was in my gut somewhere, which kind of makes sense because that's where I was sick. And I felt this emotion rise up, and it started to come up and out. It was like a vomiting of like this expression. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. Should delve into that a little bit more. And so then I started like trying to get a sense of where the emotion came from. And I managed to pick up that, you know, everything stemmed back to some of my first experiences as a child. You know, just being teased and bullied by siblings and school people. That affected my self-esteem, which was why I stayed in a really unhealthy, toxic relationship for 10 years. And in that relationship, I repressed all my feelings of shame and guilt and anger for all that time. So all that energy was sitting in my body. That's why I got sick. So I decided to go to India. I wanted to go to a retreat, but like just a regular retreat was too expensive. So I found this teacher training for Ashtanga yoga, and it was like $1,400 for 1 month. That included accommodation, my own room in the Himalayas, like at the base of the Himalayas. It was in Rishikesh, and 3 vegetarian meals a day for a month. And I got a teacher training certificate at the end. I wasn't intending to become a yoga teacher. I just wanted to get well. Anyway, on the last night, like we'd finished, like we'd done our exams, everything. So we all planned to go out for dinner, all the participants. And I was just sitting in a cafe that afternoon, writing in my journal, and I saw these people setting up all these Tibetan style singing bowls. I had no experience or knowledge of these. And I just asked what they were doing, and they said they were doing like a sound healing thing that night. And I was like, oh, I can't go, I've got dinner. So anyway, I left, and I was on my way to buy a crystal for one of the women that I'd befriended during the course. And then I thought, you don't have to go to dinner. Why don't you, maybe you're meant to just go and do this. So I did. I went back and I did the experience. And it was like quite interactive. So you were using the bowls and putting them on your different chakras and banging them and making like the bead sounds for each chakra. And at the time, because I'd had no experience of this, I just thought this was weird. It's not doing anything. But I went home, went to bed, everything normal. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I had this intense churning here at the third eye, the Anya chakra. Like it was just like this vortex. I've never actually felt it so intensely ever before since. And it was kind of like, whoa. But I just rode with it and embraced it. And then I got up to do the optional. So we did the primary series every day. And so on this Sunday it was optional because the course had officially finished. But I decided to go down there, and I remember, like, as I walked in, they had put the results up for the exams, and everyone had passed, but I could see that my mark was like really low in comparison to most people in the class. And that was kind of, I guess that brought up that sort of shame stuff and low self-worth stuff again. And I started doing the primary series, and then I started to cry. And it was intense. I actually had to leave because it wasn't the kind of cry you just like sniff back in. It needed to come out. So I went back to my room, and it was like floodgates opening. An absolute explosion of tears and sobbing and crying. And this went on for a couple of hours. I remember at one point I even put myself in the cupboard, trying to contain myself. But miraculously, after this huge letting go, and I guess all the yoga and everything, I got well. My chronic fatigue was gone. I started eating like I used to eat. I was able to drink wine again. And now I was also equipped with the skills of yoga, and I continued doing primary series every day for several years. And then I started to look into other forms of yoga, a bit of yin and this and that, until I discovered Kundalini yoga. And from the first class that I had of Kundalini yoga, I was sold. I was in. Even my husband, when he picked me up, he was like, you need to keep going and doing that. He could see this lift in me. And yeah, I've been nurturing my love of that ever since. And all I've wanted to do is share it with people, because it's had such a profound effect on my spiritual, emotional, physical, mental well-being. I've never felt so grounded in my entire life. I am so self-aware that I notice immediately if I'm going into an old pattern of overreaction, and I'm able to just go, oh, that's not a big deal, and just cruise through all those bumps. And then when there's heavier stuff, like when I'm feeling like, bigger emotions, I'm able to sit with the emotions and not hide them. Like take a day off or spend the afternoon just allowing those emotions to be expressed and to move through all those things in life. So this is why I'm teaching Kundalini today, because it's awesome.